morning to you, and thank God for each and every one of you on this Saturday morning. Kind of cloudy outside, a little rain here and there. I think it's supposed to be, for the most part, off and on, but it may indeed later on this afternoon kind of just clear out and maybe a little sun come in. On tomorrow, we're talking about maybe about 77 degrees on tomorrow, and no rain as far as I understand on tomorrow. And Monday about the same thing. We are dropped down to on Monday around about 66 degrees. So once again, we just say good morning to him. We thank God for each and every one of you. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us certainly rejoice and be glad in it. As my grandmother would say, any day above ground is a good day. So I'm just telling you, it is a good day. It's right now about 8 minutes or so after the hour. Jim Holley here with you on this Saturday morning. And if it's your first time viewing our program, it's Hello Detroit. It is a program that really is current events is what we talk about. And you're certainly welcome to call in and express your point of view, your opinion in regards to the various matters that's taking place not only in the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, but in the country as well as in the world. The telephone number is right there on your television screen, so you have no reason for not to call. 868-0342, 868-0351, and 868-336. Those are the numbers. The area code is still the same, the 313. Once again, we thank God for each and every one of you. I kind of almost missed getting on the air on time. Got caught up with this this wedding that's taking place in England, and I'm just, I don't know. Somehow, I want to say that I'm going to not look at it and not be stuck to the television about it, but somehow, some kind of way, when they get going, you just it's history, and certainly you're happy for this couple. And you see that not only is the country changing, but the world is changing. England, of course, has already changed. And so, again, you just you see how basically the two countries come together to put this wedding on. And certainly you're very happy for the young lady, very happy for the prince. And it's really a storybook kind of a tale, if you really look at it. But I got it caught up in it. My daughter and I was watching it and commenting about it. Next thing I know, it's 7:30. Next thing you know, it's 20 minutes to 8. And next thing you know, you got to get here. But never we made it, and we thank God for it. And again, I don't know about you, but I do I like history. I was a history major, obviously, and because of that, I just come to love it. In all kinds of history, and there's certainly when you see what's happening for this young lady and this young man in terms of finding the love, and then you know his mother and basically how she died, and you see the father and the stepmother, and you see the queen, and you see the sister of Princess Diana, all of that, and of course, and it's just I just got caught up in it, and so. But I'm glad to be here on this Saturday morning. Got a lot to talk about this morning, and certainly I want to really have some conversation this morning in regards to all the shootings that's taking place across the country, and the couple yesterday in terms of what took place at the Santa Fe in Texas, and just really talk about it. And it just seems like all we do is talk in this country in terms of what they're going to do to protect children. They protect the money in the bank. They protect VIPs. We protect our political officials. Everybody's been protected. We protect our churches. We protect all the property, but somehow, some kind of way, we just don't want to come to the realization that we have to protect our children. And of course, it's interesting in terms of about 6 or 7 mass shootings have taken place within the year or so, and they go back and talk about it, and still nothing happens in terms of putting security. We don't normally in that I ever see about it in terms of what's going on in our schools in Detroit and in urban America. Of course, they have these protections when you come in to many of our high schools, and for the most part, out whatever shooting that takes place takes place outside of the school system, the school district, and but somehow the suburbanites and people like that somehow feel like again they don't need the same kind of protection that we protect our children here in urban America. So again, maybe they come to the realization that we need to have really security in our schools and on every floor and try to make sure that our children are safe and they have a sense of protection when you go to working the way to school, protection in the school and after school. It's just it's terrible. How do you, I mean, I just cannot imagine, when a mother sends her children off to school and you come to find out they've been killed by some deranged or some depressed or some kid that for the most wants some attention or something like this, and just and your child is gone. It just it's got to be you got to really feel for the parents. You got to feel for the parents. I mean, I have a great grandson, and I mean, when he bumps his head, I get all upset, and when he stumbles or falls and run into something, I get all upset. Can you imagine having your child to go to school and come to find out that he or she has been killed or hurt? Or it's just an unfortunate situation, but it's somehow, some kind of way, our politicians just feel like they're going to talk their way out of it. They're prosper and going on, and somehow, my sisters and brothers, we really need to take this stuff serious and stop doing so much talking and really start giving some action in terms of protecting our children. And so I thought perhaps that you might want to talk about that this morning in terms of that, and in terms of the whole idea about guns now. We'll go back and start discussing whether or not we got too many guns and all these kinds of things. And for the most part, and I know that the Second Amendment, it's not going to go anywhere, not at least not in my lifetime. It's not going to go anywhere. And so you got to work with what you got and try to make sure you make people responsible. This young fellow, most likely he got his father's, 17 years old, most likely got his father's rifle and guns, whatever he needed to go in there, and they weren't secured. I'm sure that's what it's got to be. And I'm just saying to you, somehow, some kind of way, this responsibility ought to go with this as well, and that again, we just need to get on top of it. Just really need to get on top of it. More than anything else, we got to do something to make sure that all children, not children that's going on the way to school, but when they're at the school, on the way to school, at the school, as well as coming from school, that all of our children are precious, and that they cannot be used as collateral damage of some kind in terms of discussion about whether or not we should have guns and how many guns we should have. And so I'm just saying to you, my sisters and brothers, that it's sad. It's just really sad. And you got, as I said before, as a grandparent, as a parent, you come to realize that how how evil this world is. And of course, what we always sit around and then we're trying to what really made this person, this guy, whether it was this one that was in Santa Fe, the one was in Florida, the other was in Texas. Regardless of what it is, they got to sit down and then try to have a discussion in terms of what music did he look at, listen to, what television did he look at, what was influencing him in terms of doing something like this. He was bully, and and people talked to him because he was fat or because he was not looking like other children, or he didn't wear the clothes like that he does with other. All these kind of sociological and discussions and psychological discussions began to go on as to why and this kind of a thing. And of course, my sister, obviously, some of that's got to be talked about, mental health and all of that. But also, I got to understand too, this is some evil people, some evil things that goes on in this country, and we have to realize that that's where we are. I mean, for people, whether you're in the Middle East cutting somebody's head off, or whether you basically shooting and killing each other in the streets, whether on the Chicago, whether Detroit or Philadelphia, in terms of life ought to have some value here. And so again, I just thought we ought to have some conversation about it this morning, 18 minutes after the hour. Again, we every time you turn around, we're talking about, but we're gonna be sorry, and we're praying, and we're gonna have a rally and bring flowers to the school, and we have a walk out and a march out, a pray out, all kinds of talking. That's all we do in this country. That's all we do. It's all our politicians do in this country. It's just talk, just talk. And somewhere down the line, you really got to realize that indeed it's time to have action, And of course, this is not a really, for the most part, not a federal piece. It's a local piece, and that municipalities and municipalities as well as the school districts have got to protect their children. They got to protect our children, and that's where it's local. It's local politics, And I know what you're going to say. Well, it's about money. It's about money. We don't have the money to bring security in. We don't have money. I'm just saying to you is that they can find money for everything else in this country. And we can always find money. We can find money for everything else, but for what the right thing. And the right thing, of course, is, as far as I'm concerned, is that we indeed ought to protect our children. You have basically, there's all kinds of things you can do in order to give incentives for people to go into schools and who's trained and I think when people realize, I know I was like to think, if you know that you got armed people in the school, it's going to make you think twice from going to a school and doing something like this. If you know somebody is there that most likely can stop you, and then of course, again, you see somebody a 90-degree weather and got a trench coat on or a overcoat on. I just think at some point or another somebody just ought to say, look, what's up under the coat. I go to restaurants. I try to make sure I'm facing the door. I'm facing what's going on. I look around. I try to, people may feel like I'm being nosy or something, but I just look around and see what's going on. And when people are having little slight arguments, discussions that goes beyond the pale in terms of a voice range, and I look and what's going on? What's going on? When somebody's basically is having a conversation with the waitress about the bill, is that I just want to know what's going on, and so and obviously that's the way we're getting. You come to, I mean, when you go to the airport, the TSA, they at the end of they give an inventory of what they really get from travelers, and I mean they get a little bit of everything but an army tank. It seems in terms of compensating confiscating the personal things from when you're going into airport. And it's amazing. It's just amazing what people carry and traveling and certainly even to churches and everything else. So I'm just saying to you, as indeed, it's just really sad, and you feel so sorry for parents who basically are without a son and without a daughter, in some cases, yesterday without a husband or without a daddy. And so I'm just saying again that sometimes somewhere down the line just got to stop all this yang-yanging and all this talking, and rather than doing something in order to make sure that we protect our children. 23 minutes after the hour. And so again, I just feel like when and I really I think about it from the time to time in terms of how in high school, our high schools, and for the most part, high schools and maybe even middle schools, where you have the young people coming in, and they have to go through the metal detector, and of course, in the in the suburbs, I guess they feel like this is just this is just beyond them. And then they talk about the fact, well, it's like you're treating students, excuse me, you treating students like they're in a prison or something like this. Well, I'm just saying to you is that again, they may feel that way, it may look that way, but I think that we have to understand is it has nothing to do what it looks like. It has to do with the fact is we're protecting that something the most precious to all of us, and that is our children. Caller, thank you for your patience. How are you this morning?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
It's not something of mystery. I look at the TV guide, and when I look at the TV guide, it's about robbery, murder. They make Al Capone. It's a cultural pastime in America, violence. It reflects the system, whereas you got a capitalism. Capitalism is based on private ownership and cutthroat market competition. And when I compete against you, I try to wipe you out. And I become a monopoly. And when you become a monopoly, then you have a tendency to dominate. And you see, and that children seeing that all over the world, the president saying, we got a nuclear bomb, but if you try to develop a nuclear bomb, we're not going to let you. We will annihilate North Korea. And we say, you got to trade like this, or we'll starve your country out. But the kids, white kids, are watching that. And they're watching when they ride into the city. When they come up off the freeway, they see the dilapidated houses all over the country where we live at. And they live in the suburbs, and they find out that the whole society of capitalist society is a lie. And so once they see they can't compete or they don't like certain things, those kids that's shooting have a little more insight on society than the rest of the children. But the rest of them are also candidates to do the same thing. So when I look at a child 17 years old, he's not out in the workforce. He's not out in extra life experiencing things. So his action comes from learned behavior. And he's learning, looking at TV, looking at the president and the U.S. government, that you take what you want. So, and he sees bombs. They bragging. We got a bigger bomb. And we drop them on children. We in all over the world. So when you got a society like that, it's not the child needs to be restructured, but it's the society that he's learning these things and need to be restructured. So that's why when you look at the news media, who is a part of perpetrating this dominant culture, and they can't figure it out. All they can talk about, well, should he have locked the guns up? Should they? It's not about guns. It's about the whole society that the children that in the suburbs are watching. In the city, it's dying of poverty. That you see the robbery and the shooting in every city. It's not an individual problem. When you see that all over the country, that's a social phenomenon that we got to deal with. And I don't see nobody dealing with it because you would have to prosecute the capitalist system. Mm. So even in the black community, give you a good. I read a piece by William Perry. He's of the Brookings Institute, and he wrote a piece about black building a lot of little small towns outside of the cities. And he asked the question, should we try to build Wall Streets out there? Oh. And then he answered his own question. No, because it cannot be sustainable. But I'm adding to his book, and I'm talking about not no history, Ferndale, and all the little suburbs cannot pay to fix their infrastructure, underground, the bridge, or the road. Yet, though they're putting us out there, they're forcing us out there. 25,000, Reverend Holley. So that's what I'm finding violent. When you force through housing policy, may like that the mayor and the city council come up with something grand that say, you got 80% of the area's income. We're going to sit 10,000 houses for people that can't afford it. When that's not, they doing it all over the country. In Washington, D.C., so the mayor and the city council did not come up with nothing. They're doing that in articles. When you read the paper all over the country, you see they're doing that. But here's what I found out. The violence is, I went and looked at the earnings of the average Detroiter. They said was $25,000. I'm rounded off. They said in Martin Luther King area, District 5, the area medium income for the area is $64,600. What if you have that? 50, not 80, it's $32,000. So the person that's earning, got a job in Detroit, cannot afford that house. And the person who holds Social Security, who make on an average of $15,872, can't afford those houses that the mayor say putting back for us. The ones on SSI that make 8,000 can't afford it. The ones who's retired make on the average of 18,000 can't afford it. And the welfare mother with one child that makes $2,649 a year, $228 a month, can't afford it. That means the total population in Detroit cannot afford those affordable houses that the mayor is jumping up and got those blackies behind him saying, oh, we go, and he moved in some senior citizens in one building, not the mothers and the folks that need the house. He moved some senior citizens in and take pictures and say, but guess what? Those senior citizens all grinning. There is no clause that says the rent can't raise.
Okay.
They said they're gonna wait for 3 years, according to what's her name, the Sheffield's daughter, who's on city council. She put in a suggested audience that in 3 years, then you would have to give them a year's notice. But right now, they ain't got that. So they're all grinning and thinking that they're going to be in those hotels and look at the landscape. And you got no leadership talking what I'm talking right now.
Okay.
Not in Congress, not being in the state representative, the city council, and no preachers who's supposed to be leaders. They ain't saying what I'm just saying to you in the audience.
All right.
So
Thank
I
you.
see that as violence
Right
here.
I got you.
The whole capital system has to be restructured because it's a system of parasites. And that's what the system we got in Detroit, invert relationship. The invert means downtown is developing on our blood.
All right, Mike, thank you.
And then you got people talking about Detroit is coming back.
All right, thank you.
When we are going.
All right, thank you.
So I just want to say that I see violence. If you're going to deal with violence, you got to deal with the source of violence.
All
and
right.
the source of violence is based in the system.
All right, thank you very much, Ty. Call you and thank you for your patience. How are you this morning?
Well, happy Saturday, Rev.
Good morning. Good morning.
I was calling because wedding of Meg and Harry has covered ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS. I guess about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. The wedding was very inclusive. It was shown around the world.
Right.
And the participants, the ministers, etc., who spoke, talked about being inclusive. Yeah. Talked about love.
Right.
Talked about working together. It's important that we have images, and that was a very excellent image this morning. To have the presentations talk about coming together and working together.
Yeah.
I was privileged to be away, at that time, see some of, and to know that the Queen of England, one of the powerful countries around the world, was inclusive and acceptive of the whole presentation, the whole imaging. And we need our young people to have some idols to imitate. Mm-hmm. And I'm also glad to say that the shows A Different World and the Cosmic Show have not been taken off. Now, we hear that those shows have been taken off TV. And we know from many reports and statistics that because of the images that the people were able to see and the lessons they were able to learn from those shows,
that's very nice.
Caused the college admissions to triple in the black community.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
With the wedding that took place today, hopefully it will reach into the minds as well as the hearts of many people around the world.
Yeah, good.
And also work to change something.
Right. And thank you for the call. Yeah, it's a good call. Very good call. Appreciate it very much. 36 minutes after the hour. If you're just joining us, obviously we are caught up with this wedding that's taking place in London, and certainly with the history that's there, and all of us basically know much of the history, and also in terms of what's going on presently and how these young people got together. But I think the idea of this coming together, and of course you have a sense that what they were talking about, bringing the two countries together, but basically also more than just the countries, but also bringing humanity together as well. Caller, thank you for your patience. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Reverend Holley.
Yes.
I was observing Reverend Barber Williams. Is that William Barber? I was observing him and another minister on democracy. That program called Democracy.
Yeah.
And as I observed his speeches, and he talked about the moral compass, I agree with Tyrone on the systematic structure that is designed to keep us racially divided and to continue man-made poverty. They are profiting off of the divisions that they continue to keep going on. And I just read that our politicians voted in record numbers to go into taking away $2.9 trillion surplus of our Social Security. And you know, I'm always talking about the CAFA account. Our tax dollars are being used against us. Our funds, the funds that they say they don't have, are being put in secret accounts offshore and invested into stock markets, foreign and domestic. So as long as we have the oligarchs that's running the system and using the politics to keep us dumb, blind, numb, and divided, they will continue to cause the austerities that some of us get more than others. But the attack is on all of us, black and white. It just seems that blacks are catching it the hardest. Thank you for taking my call, Reverend Holley.
And thank you for the call as well. We're going to wait about 20 minutes after the hour. And if you're just joining us, obviously we're caught up, obviously, with the wedding that's taking place in London, but also caught up in this whole thing about violence in terms of our schools with the other day where a 17-year-old go in and basically kills 10 people. And as I indicated, this is like the sixth within the little bit over a year, the 6 mass shootings in a little bit over a year. And of course, when we continue to talk, and then after each situation, then we have the politicians and the sociologists and the psychologists all sit around and try to figure out, why and what took place and what brought him or her to this situation. And then in another 10 days or so, we go on. And it's amazing to me. It's just really amazing, that basically how we're just sort of getting sort of like immune to death in every situation. I mean, we can have 300 recorded homicides in the city of Detroit, or 600 in Chicago on December the 31st of each year of the last year. Then January 1st of 2018, we start all over again and we basically just sort of just put everything behind us and push forward like nothing really happened. And somewhere down the line, my sisters and brothers, we got to get to the point where we start dealing with some of this stuff before it really gets to the point where it really where we can't deal with it anymore. And of course, again, now you sit around, and the next 2 or 3 days we'll talk about his mental state of this young 17-year-old fellow, how many who bullied him, and why did they bully him, and I think many of us have been bullied in one way or another when we were children. But I never thought about getting a stick or getting a gun or anything and walking into the school or walking into a church and just basically killing people. And I'm just saying to you is that it's got to be more than just what we're talking about and what we're basically dealing with. And rather than just sitting down and trying to make sure, first of all, we got to protect our children. We protect the money in the bank. We got people that on the parking lots of our church, on our churches. We protect our cars on the church. We got people security for that. We have security for VIPs. We have security for just about everything property-wise and material-wise. And you mean tell me we cannot basically give security to our children? I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Whether it's done in the schools like this young man did the other day, and for the last six instances, or whether it is in the street after school or before school or on the weekend. I mean, it's somewhere down the lines. We have to really sit down and again, whoever's responsible, they're saying that it's not in terms of the schools. It's not really coming from the federal government. It's not coming from the state. It has to come with local school districts. And obviously, many of them are without. They don't have enough money for teachers and money to really educate the children. So they don't have the money to put security in the schools. So then that's where the federal government have to come in. And it's amazing to me is that we can find money for Iraq, we can find money for Afghanistan, we can find money for all kinds of situations, the wall on the border, but we can't really protect our children, whether they're in school or out of school, whether it's suburban or whether it's in urban. I mean, it's just sort of ridiculous, and again, it's all going to be talk and all posturing, and basically, try to get ready for the next election, and that's I get so tired of with our politicians. All we do for the most part is just work for the next election and for the next election, for the next election. We don't do much about anything in terms of the problems that we're facing in our community. And somehow, some kind of way, we got to hold them accountable. Caller, thank you for calling. How are you this morning? Good morning.
All right, Mr. Holley. We got to understand what kind of problem you're in. Okay, see, I'm part of the solutions, and I hope that people understand that they got to make solutions. The problem we got now with those politicians stopped us from whooping our kids because they didn't want their kids whooped. You spare pride, you ruin the child. Okay, it ain't nothing else but these laws that they didn't enact that are so bad. I mean, they're terrible. We do not look at what is really going on. Yes, we have mental illness, but trust me, it's all about the law that they have got us to adhere to.
Mm.
Now, when I was in school, they had security guards right there at the door, okay? And you couldn't get in.
Right.
If you had any kind of weapon.
Right.
So right now, something is going on. Why they letting people in like that? And then we need security because now they coming to shoot. We don't have a lot of choices. But the problem is we don't even raise any kind of fuss. Then we let our people just do anything. I still don't know why we're not taking the whole city of Detroit and all the surrounding areas to Flint and protest about this water. They poisoned the whole city. We need to be checking the water we got here in Detroit. Highland Park is being poisoned now. We have major problems. Let people just tell us anything because they think we're stupid. We got to be trying to find out what is the solution to stuff.
Yeah.
And the only solution anybody want to find is that we have to have mass protests to get people's attention and wake up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I thank you for the call. Good call too, by the way. 14 minutes to the hour, as we work our way to the top of the hour. I want to make sure that you don't want to miss what we got for you in another 7-8 minutes, because there is a exciting program that's sponsored by DTE, and I want to make sure you're going to be part of it. and make sure that your young people are really a part of it. And that's what we really want to go after, is the young entrepreneurs that really have an opportunity, will have an opportunity for their dreams to come true. And of course, we got a corporation that's basically sponsoring something that I think you're going to really, really like. So I want to make sure that you know that it's coming. And it's sort of like our think tank that you see on television, and it's sort of like our Detroit think tank, if you would please. And so again, and it's about money, it's opportunities that again for businesses and young people who really want to start a business, are already have started and just don't have the resources to get it up and running. And we're going to bring this young man in to give you all the information about it in a few minutes. So you don't want to miss that. That's coming up in about another 10 minutes. And so once again, I want to say good morning to you. And we thank God for each and every one of you on this 19th day of the month. As I indicated to you, we've got a little drizzle here and there, sort of like a cloudy day. I think it's supposed to basically basically clear off later on this afternoon. But on high today, it's supposed to be about about 77 degrees for the high today. Tomorrow about 65 degrees. I want to make sure I didn't say that. I kind of had it backwards early this morning. But we're talking about tomorrow, no rain in the forecast on Sunday or Monday. And then on Monday, we're talking about around about 66 degrees. We're working our way where we can stay at 70 plus, and probably by the middle of the week, we'll get there. But right now, like I said before, it is what it is, and just hope that indeed this is going to be a good day for you and a good weekend for you to be with family. And of course, that's the reason why I really brought this up early this morning in regards to the shooting that took place in Santa Fe, Texas, where families are mourning their children, and because the children at school and they didn't come home, and it's just got to be you as parents, and even if you don't have children, you just got to feel for parents. I mean, what they're going through. And I think, my sister and brother, when you look around and you see there are 100,000 high schools in America, probably plus more than that. But if you see 100,000 high schools in America, and you got 6 of these kind of situations, and I think somehow, some kind of way we are thinking this thing, because again, you got 6 and you divide 6 into 100,000, then it might come out to where you basically just don't even come to a percentage. It's probably less than 1%. And I'm just saying to you, is it because again, somewhere down the line, something has got to happen. You don't understand why something has not already happened. And of course, when you talk about, again, 10,000, talking about 10 kids that did not come home, and maybe about 9 of them. And of course, I think it was a teacher that was shot, that was involved in this fatality. And then, of course, the other mass killings that took place. And so I'm just saying to you is that somehow we just can't get immune to this stuff. We just got to protect our children. And whether it's in the school system or whether it's outside the school system. Do you know how many children have been shot in the city of Detroit? I mean, accident shot, or whether it's whatever has happened, drive-by, whatever. I'm just saying to you is that somehow, some kind of way, we got to protect our children. And I want to let June, you might want to know that indeed that you got it. And so I just want you to know that we'll get ready for that interview that's coming up. I want to make sure, my sister and brother, that we get information to you that's going to be helpful, and that it's going to be of kind of information that, for the most part, that's going to indeed be an incentive for you to do things here in the city of Detroit. I know downtown we got a lot of criticisms we do on this program in terms of what goes on in Midtown, downtown, and Corktown, and all these other kind of towns. But it's the neighborhoods that we really are concerned about. And one of the things I think that this young man is going to bring to you is to talk about the possibilities of what can happen in a neighborhood. And this probably is a pilot program. He'll let me know and let you know if it's just really a pilot program by DTE and what they're trying to do in order to really get businesses jump started in our neighborhoods. And that's what we need. We need to do something about the neighborhood. We need a strong housing program in our neighborhood so people can stay in the city. I hear you loud and clear. But also, my sister, we got to have jobs, and we got to create jobs in order to be able to. People just not going to give you a house, and you don't and no mortgage. It just doesn't happen like that. And whether you my age, a senior citizen, or whether you 19 or 20 years old, it just doesn't happen. People just not going to give you water. They'll make sure that they'll do what they can to where you can get it and get it in a program of some sort, but just not going to give it to you. The light bill is just not going to. They're just not going to give you lights. They'll give you a way to pay it, but they just don't. And so what we have to understand when you keep talking to me about driving people out of this and driving people out of that, trust me, I hear you loud and clear. But I also understand that those of us who are senior citizens have got to be able to have affordable housing. And those of us who are not senior citizens that basically are able to work, got to find a job and got to be trained, are educated, or whatever you want to call it, whatever is needed in order to be able to qualify for a job. And there are a lot of jobs. And of course, I said before, we just got to work on it. And there is no real answer to all of this. There's just no black and white. This whole thing in life now has become very gray. It's not so. You got to really try to find a way to get our young people to understand that they got to start making what they want to do in the sixth grade, in the seventh grade, in the eighth grade, certainly by the ninth grade. What it is that they really want to do, and start making arrangements in terms of classes, in terms of environment, in terms of exposure, to basically to really get them to feel it, what it is that they want to do. And we got to give exposure. Every time I go somewhere like to Africa, I'm due to go at the end of next month, and I would take one of my students from a school or from the school or from the church, and basically give him the experience of traveling with me, and so he or she can have exposure. And this is very important. I remember I took like 132 kids to the Bahamas, and they had this basically the exposure of putting a passport together, and the immigration, whatever the people come to do passports, came into the school, to the church, and gave these young people an opportunity to how to qualify and how to basically get a passport. And when they went through the customs, I let them not give them all passports together. Each one gave the custom officer his or her passport, whether they were 8 years old or whether they were 18. And the point is, we got to give our young people exposure, and this is one of the things that I think this program is going to do as well, in terms of giving exposure and giving tutoring. Basically, if I'm going to give you financial help, then also let me give you help with the finance so that you don't make necessary mistakes and not doing it by trial and error. And so we'll talk about that. So I want you to know that we're coming up at the top of the hour, and we'll basically be talking to Mr. Mark Perry. And he has his own him and his lovely wife have their own PR firm, do a wonderful job over the years. And we'll talk about his history there, and also what he's really doing presently in working with this program as we basically bring Detroit's think tank to the neighborhood. We'll be right back.
We'll say a little prayer for you, and I will always care for you. Hello, hello, Detroit.